So this is what I would say today. The Taubman approach is a groundbreaking body of knowledge that covers all aspects of piano technique and offer powerful tools that make it possible to diagnose and solve previously unsolvable problems.
Wow. Welcome to Inside the Taubman Approach. I'm Benjamin Harding. Today's episode is a must listen. We welcome the great Edna Golandsky to the podcast to discuss her new book, The Taubman Approach to Piano Technique, a comprehensive guide to overcome physical limitations and unlock your full pianistic potential. Part 1 of the interview is today, and next week we will have part 2. You can visit Edna's website, links are in the show notes, to purchase this book. I have my copy in front of me that I purchased on Amazon, so you can go to Amazon and purchase it. You can also get it on Barnes & Noble. Did you know, too, that Edna has a weekly podcast of her own on her YouTube channel? Check out the show notes for a link to the YouTube channel. Let's get into today's episode. Edna Golandsky, welcome to Inside the Taubman Approach.
Thank you, Benjamin. I'm very happy to be back, and thank you for inviting me.
We have such an incredible announcement to make, and in fact, this week, The Taubman Approach to Piano Technique, your book, is number 1 on the Amazon site in terms of purchasing this incredible work. People are purchasing it all over the world, and it's number 1.
From, I think, new books that came out recently or today, I'm not sure, it kind of went into number 1, which is, of course, thrilling. I'm a little bit surprised, but delighted. I'm happy because the whole purpose of this work and doing all the things that I've done and continue to do is really to help. That's the core reason, outside of the fact that it's such an incredible body of knowledge that to this day keeps me wrapped with further understanding. But anyway, keep going.
Yes. Well, we just want to congratulate you on this incredible achievement that the Taubman Approach to Piano Technique is a labor of love for you. You've been involved in this work for decades. And as John Bloomfield has said in a previous interview on this podcast, that the Taubman Approach really would have remained a footnote in the history of piano pedagogy hadn't it been for your incredible devotion to advancing this work. Can you share a little bit about how you came to be a part of this work and advance it in the history of piano pedagogy?
Really, there was no master plan. I was, as people now know, I was a student at Juilliard. I came across Dorothy's work through my roommate at the last year of my studies, my master's. It was a question whether to continue or not to continue at the school. And I went for a lesson, and it looked interesting. I would say that for someone who was very naive about life, young, and really not knowing yet what's what, I just thought it's interesting to go for a lesson and to hear someone actually ask questions. It was not, even after 7 and 8 years of studies, it just wasn't something you did because you didn't expect answers and you didn't think anything more was available. I practiced. I was not a huge practicer, I practiced several hours a day, but not as some of the students who would come at 6 in the morning when the school opened and would practice for 8, 10 hours. I was not that person. So I think that it kind of was a slow process. I knew that I was going to continue because of this work. So I waited until I finished school because it was too much, the mix of having to go through certain things slower and with much more detail versus having to go from week to week and have a work completed or near completed and already practice it very quickly. It was too stressful. So I waited, but when I started immediately the next season, I knew I was committed to learning. I think that all that was, not even consciously, was I just wanted to know. I just saw an incredible door opening to something that I didn't think I needed. In other words, I got along. Everybody thought I had a natural technique because it looked natural. I had speed. And recently, actually, I looked at looking through many, so much paper work, at home and throwing things out. I came across a letter from my teacher, Julia Del Marcus, was my second teacher, my third teacher at the school. And she wrote, it was a letter of recommendation saying that I was one of the best students at the school, which, I didn't think that way. I didn't remember, I just knew that I did well. So anyway, to make a long story short, I started learning. And as I kept learning, there was a persistent thought, I must have other people know about it. That was it. It was just, people have to know about it. Because I didn't think that there was more. I didn't think I was in any terrible straits. I got tired. My arm got tired. Sometimes I had some backache. But I knew that there were certain limitations, and I didn't think that it was abnormal. That's just, what you're given. And as you keep practicing, I was told, things will get better and better and so on. So when I came across her work, I don't know, something in my brain just switched. It really spoke to me. And, sometimes they say in life, you find something where you're a good match. And I think that that's what happened. It was really an incredible match, this work and my work with Dorothy. And she very quickly also asked me to go with her when she gave talks and to demonstrate, and to explain. So early on, I was working with her, and I didn't care how long it took, whatever it took, but it was the persistent thought, I've got to get it out. People have to know about it. People will just get so much out of it. That was it. Mm-hmm. So from there, I was looking for eventually, okay, what do we do? I can't go to people and say, come and study this work. It's so great. So that was the thought that I had to do a summer workshop.
Right. So you created the Taubman Institute.
The Taubman Institute, it was a collaboration with Taubman and with Enid Stetner, who was my student at the time and had some business experience. She had a business, sold it and all of that. And we were very good friends. And I just said, can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me? Also, Dorothy, another thing that from the beginning bothered me is that Dorothy used to call it the Taubman method. And even though English is not my first language, the idea of method was it's one of many. And I said to her, it is so unique, it's unlike anything else. How about if we call it approach? And she said, good, and it took. That's how it became the Taubman approach. Yeah, yes. Which I feel is like more unique, at least in my thinking, was this is more unique. So, we got a place and we had the first year and 50 people showed up.
Amazing.
A beautiful place upstate. We had a great time. Dorothy would lecture, would give master classes. I would demonstrate. We got swimming, It was just a lot of fun, and it was for 2 weeks. But the next year, it was not available, so Enid found Amherst College in Massachusetts, which was a perfect location, and we had the whole music building for 2 weeks. So that lasted for maybe 25 years. And so this is how it evolved very gradually. So we
And
did
getting
that.
the word out and inviting people into participating in the Taubman work.
Well, when they wanted,
Yeah.
we started having. Well, I can't imagine there were not even email lists. We used to have advertisements. This was in the 70s,
Right.
and we also started piano festival. And so, of course, pianists love to come. And this is, by the way, our father Sean came.
Oh, okay.
He came
Yes,
to
right.
play and
Yeah.
stayed. That's how Ilya came and stayed.
Great.
So we had some of those, but many pianists just came, played, had a good time, and and went on. It was a summer institute. In other words, during the year, nothing happened. And years into it, I just thought we need year round. And also, what was not available is to do a training program, because it became very clear that the teaching was not even. There were people who were more experienced and did a great job, and there were people who didn't do such a good job, even though they were learning. And it's not because they were stupid, but teaching this work is very complex. It's a very complex body of knowledge, made up of many details, which
Yes.
end up being what we call a natural technique. Someone who has it naturally, that's what's there. They don't have to go and do all the different things. That's what's there. But I saw through the years, I taught more and more. I got more and more serious people. How very accomplished people were in such trouble.
Yeah.
Such trouble. And yet it was a hard sell, because what this work shows, and I'll go a little bit into it, goes very much against our traditional learning
Approach. That's right. Learning approach.
Right.
So decades, 5 decades of working day after day in this work, countless seminars. We have the 10 DVDs. We have such a body of knowledge that you have produced. What motivated you to write this work into a book, The Taubman Approach to Piano Technique? And as we mentioned, the Taubman Approach would have remained a footnote in history if you had not devoted those 5 decades of work, both with Dorothy and then now with the Golandsky Institute, established in 2003 with your colleagues. Why write a book about this incredible work?
Anyone who studied with Taubman will remember that she talked constantly about writing a book. She talked about it always because her lectures were incredible.
Yes.
There was so much material, but I'll tell you just quickly that the words really don't describe the experience, because the experience is very physical. It's very hard to write about it. So, what she wrote, that I was given the second or third year, she called me and she said, it's too much for me. You have to do the lectures. Because she did the lectures. And I was very happily, having a good time teaching and demonstrating. And she said, you have to do it because it's just too much for me. I just want to do the master classes. And in retrospect, I also understand, because after years of saying it again and again, you get a little bit tired. So I did the same thing. Years and years later, I trained, my longtime students and colleagues, Bob, John, and Mary to give those lectures because I've had it. I wanted to concentrate on other areas that were interesting, and that's the way to go in life. It has to
Right.
continue, and other people have to take over. So the book didn't come out, and I didn't see. She was trying and she was writing, but nothing happened. So 10 years, I would say it was more than 10 years after I started working with her, maybe 15 years. I said to her, Dorothy, knowledge will be stolen and copied.
Yeah.
And there will never be a record. So how about meanwhile? This was going to be a meanwhile. How about if we just tape the lectures? You can give them, I'll demonstrate, and we'll have some kind of a record of what your work is, because I could see already people taking just, little aspects of it, and that's not how it works well. It's very powerful and potent, but you want it to be taught correctly.
Yes.
She said, well, I can't do it. So, okay, we have to do it. So I did it. I just gave my lectures, and we had a wonderful man, Ernest Urvader, who also did the choreography of the hands, which is...
Oh, yes. Right.
He's the man who did it, who came years before and said, Dorothy, I want to write about you. I want to do something for you, because his former wife was a student of Dorothy and used to come to lessons. And he was a physicist who also was a jazz player. Always, the piano was always in his life. So anyway, so I asked him if he would do it, because he really understood the work, and if he would do it, and he said yes. And then after taping it, it went into editing. I had nothing to do with the editing. Dorothy and he worked on the editing, and where she felt more explanation was needed, she gave it.
That's where she would interject, yes, in the DVDs, right.
Exactly. But
yes.
So that was in the mid-'80s. 10 years went by. That was just going to be meanwhile. The book is not out, and all her students would know. We always heard about it. I said, Dorothy, we have got to do something. How about we do the next 5, and have a kind of a completion? Okay. She was happy. She was not so happy. Okay, let's do it. So he did it. By that time, the experience of editing was a little bit too much for him, because she wanted it this way and she wanted it that way. So I promised him that this time I will do it with him. Okay, he will have, and it will go quickly. It will not take forever.
Okay.
So that's what we did, and I'm forever. He meanwhile passed away, but I'm forever grateful to this amazing contribution. So we did those. So we had at least, a picture of the work according to Dorothy, exactly as I wanted to be a record exactly of what she said and how she said it. So we did that. But, the talk of the book through the years, people still seem to need, a stamp of approval. There's something about a book. And asked me to do it, and I always said, absolutely not. I can't do it, it's too much work, and I knew it would be very hard work, to put it down. I mean, I demonstrate a lot, I lecture a lot. I find it easy. You can go back and forth. You can bring in other things from left and right. You can repeat something. And I didn't want to do it. But then the last few years, I saw more and more, people are doing their thesis, very often doctorate on the Taubman work.
On the Taubman work, right.
And I see, and of course, it's not the Taubman work, and very often it's combined with Alexander, which is perfectly fine in itself, Feldenkrais, and it's a mishmash. And I thought to myself, oh my God, after all of these years, that's what it will be. It's just a part of, a little bit, a taste of this and a taste of that. And the people who say, yeah, they teach some Taubman, but it's not the powerful, potent work that it is. And I saw, the last time I saw something, someone sent me asking me to, if it's okay. And they wrote that one of those mixes, and a little of this and a little of that, and no understanding. And I said, I've got to do it.
Yeah.
When I saw more and more. Dorothy thought no one will understand it well enough to kind of write about it. People didn't, but they still wrote about it. She was wrong that way.
Yeah.
So I decided I'm just going to do it, and I'm my head is not a book type. I mean, I read books, but I knew it will. This will be another. This is a whole other thing. So I just took really a pad and pen and started writing. And what I knew is that I didn't want to start with the work immediately, that I wanted to clarify some concepts, because some of the things that we talk about it, like weight,
Yes.
other people speak about weight. Taubman speaks about it completely differently,
Right.
explains it differently, not to be different, but it's used differently.
And in the context of the playing apparatus, which you get right into in the book, you begin to describe the different kinds of aspects that affect the playing apparatus itself. Talk to us a little bit about the weight issue, for example.
Yeah, well, I'll go to some degree. I mean, people have the book, so
Yes.
they can, and they have the
Or they need to get the book, or they need to
get the book, or the Golandsky Institute has incredible streaming for very little money. It's huge. It has so much information. My own website has free information also.
Yes.
There's information all around. We have the podcast. I have my own podcast now,
Right.
just showing little, elements of the technique. So I don't really, people need to understand it, but just, okay, so I'll to make a long story short, generally in our field, when we talk about weight, it comes from relaxation, from the upper arm, from the wrist, from the shoulder. And that can cause more problems. It doesn't really solve problems. In other words, when someone says, I am tense, I have some pain, the traditional way is to say, relax, but you don't know what you're relaxing. Taubman showed that the basic elements of technique, the parts that are involved in playing, and she gives the reasons why, very clearly are the finger, hand, and forearm. So somewhere the weight has to come from the forearm. And instead of being heavyweight, it's very lightweight. In other words, what do we need when we play the piano? It's all very small movements, small muscles. Everything is small. And it should be done in a way that doesn't interfere with speed. In other words, when you're dropping everything, when you're relaxing everything, everything is heavy. We talk about speed. You can't move quickly that way. And you can't break fulcrums. We don't move in life dropping elbows. We don't move in life dropping wrists. We can't hold on to anything. When we break the wrist and then weight falls into it, it causes a lot of pain. Carpal tunnel syndrome mostly comes from that. But again, without going into details, the whole explanation is, where is it coming from with leaving the body intact? Where is it going to? Where is it aiming? After all my years in music school, I didn't know, when she asked me, where is sound made? Mm-hmm. I said, I don't know, the bottom of the key. And it's very different when you aim to the bottom of the key and there is like a floor, there's wood there. And we're told to keep pressing and keep relaxing. It only causes tension. So I learned for the first time that at the point of that little blimp, that little... this escapement, this is where sound is produced, and then there's a slight follow-through, and on the bottom of the key there's nothing. So you begin to aim in a very different way, and getting more sound or less sound feels the same, even though you are employing something. It's like plus something, but it's never creates an obstacle to a technique that is working fast, freely, and without symptoms. So the whole book explains, and I sometimes say, I know it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
It's almost magical, but that is what it can accomplish. But I do talk in the book, among many other things, what does it take to learn it?
Yes.
It takes a mental effort. It takes understanding. You have to concentrate. You develop an ability to concentrate that goes into life. You can't do it without understanding it. But then, how does the understanding go into the playing and becomes a sensation?
Yeah.
A comfortable sensation where people first come. And we just drop them on each finger with a aligned, connected forearm. Suddenly, the feeling is of ease. Suddenly, there's no weak fourth finger. There's no weak fifth finger. It feels comfortable. We make sure that the chair is at the right height. Everything is connected to the basic thing of the alignment.
The alignment.
And the alignment, people, so this is another thing. When you say alignment, people think body alignment. And the body needs to be aligned. It's a great thing. All those practices, Feldenkrais and Alexander and Tai Chi and Qigong and the yoga, from thousands of years ago, they showed you can't move effectively without being aligned. But at the piano, that doesn't necessarily result in better playing. Because when you play the piano, this is a very specific activity. Fingers are going down and putting a key. That is another alignment. But, there's been criticism of this work, and I've really ingested the criticism all these years, trying to come up with better answers to explain, because there's always a kernel of truth. So people say, well, how can you play just, from the elbow down? How do you disconnect yourself from the body that way? And it's a legitimate question. So one of the things actually that I explain, and also on my this week on my podcast.
Yes.
Where is the body? And it is part of the work. It's definitely part of the work itself. But in what way? I explained that they're active leading parts. Like in walking, the leading part is the walking and the body responds. So there are the leading parts, which are the parts that can achieve the maximum results, finger, hand, and forearm. So these are the active part. We are connected to the upper arm, which is connected to the body. So they play another role. First of all, they're like, I call them the followers.
The followers, that's right.
You go to the piano, these are the active parts. Now, if you move, the upper arm is going to move with you, but it's not active in the same way. In other words, I think that the fact that the body, everything is interconnected in the body, it's wired, I think the assumption has been that the efforts take everything that we do, everything, is the whole body. It looks that way. But what is happening, you have the leading part, the upper arm does follow. And actually, I did and the body, the torso has to follow in order to make sure that the leading parts are always in the best position to do what they have to do. If you're playing lower to the left and your body stays right in the middle register, the arm can't get there. Mm-hmm. So, they play a major role, but with very little movements and very little effort. They don't play, the body does not play the piano.
The clarity by which you define those principles is just outstanding in the beginning of the book. You're talking about the playing apparatus, those aspects of leading and following. You make it very, very clear. And for anybody who's wondering about sort of the clear defining principles of the Taubman approach, you all need to go to Amazon, you need to go to Barnes and Noble, you need to go to Edna's website and really make yourself get this incredible book. It's really fantastic.
So I do what I do and take it or leave it. And that's an important principle for me. You don't have to do anything. I'm presenting an incredible work. It's a work of a woman who devoted her life to it. Yeah. And I unexpectedly am doing the next generation of it. And one of my proudest things is that we have now a generation of people, who are doing good work. And it couldn't happen without the training. First of all, to my great luck, my longtime students and colleagues, Robert Durso, John Bloomfield, Mary Moran, with whom I knew I wanted to do this institute, and I knew what I wanted to achieve. I wanted a year-round institute. I wanted to be able to have a program of training at doing such great work. And we are together producing the next generation of other people who are doing great work. And some of them, you interviewed, people come today very differently. So when someone gets in touch with me today, they know a lot about the Taubman work. And if they didn't, I would say, please see what it is, see if it's for you. And when you come, just know some basic things about work, that it's not a huge surprise to say they can ask me, so what does it mean? What's wrong with me? We start like that, but they're coming already with some education. And I can't tell you what a relief it is to me. And I know from what you said on your the podcast for the Institute, that people log on from 90 countries?
Yes, over 92, 93 countries right now. Yeah.
Okay, that's about half the universe.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that there are 180 countries. And you know what makes me so happy about it, because I always said it, and I knew that it was true. While everybody thinks they're unique in their problems, and only they have problems, I always say you're part of a huge community that doesn't know about itself.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think this is helping, I hope that it helps more for people to know that we basically have the same training worldwide. Maybe with some, differences. And I think the East, Asian countries, Africa, everywhere in the world, we hear from countries that sometimes I haven't even heard about them.
Mm-hmm.
And they ask the same questions. The training, they think the Western training is the training. It's wonderful. And something, the thing is that they don't realize that if things don't feel good, something is wrong with it's like you eat something bad, and you throw up. The body tells you something is wrong. When we feel something is wrong, we think it's normal, and we think that that's the way. I was told that, Juliet, this is the way to develop endurance and to develop a better technique. In other words, you have to go through pain. As Taubman pointed out, pain in everyday life means something is wrong. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the piano, it's like a whole other thing. There's a huge mythology. And it's very hard to tell people. I don't tell people everything is wrong, even when it is. I just say, let's see. I explain what is wrong with what they do, because they are indisputable facts.
Right.
And if nobody did anything but realized that the main causes that Taubman identified, like when we curl, we're using muscle, immediately anyone in the world will feel tense. We are more the same than we are different. Mm-hmm. And we sometimes hear it in other areas. That's what it is. We are basically the same. If you stretch your fingers, you're going to feel tension. Yeah. If you isolate, keep 5 fingers down and lift one at a time, it's going to feel terrible. I will not go into why, because we have enough explanations. And the book says it, and people who have the 10 DVDs know. I don't know how much of it penetrates, because people they don't realize these are the basic principles. Mm-hmm. And moving as a unit, not relaxing the wrist, it's any kind of a break in the alignment. Like if you go to your head, if you go to pick up a glass of water, whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to move lined up. And if you do any of the crazy things that we are told to do, we can't reach our destination. We can't do it, and it's going to hurt even if you don't play the piano. So if only that was accepted, that when we twist the hand, why do we twist the hand? Because not understanding how you move in and out from the white to the black keys and the black keys to the white keys. It's so logical. Yeah. This information is so logical. It's so rational. That's what hit me. It was like I couldn't have enough of it. Mm-hmm. So, if someone asks me, the elevator pitch, what is the Taubman approach about? I used to say, I just can't put it in 1 or 2 sentences. It's just too broad. but I have to because sometimes people ask it. So this is what I would say today. The Taubman approach is a groundbreaking body of knowledge that covers all aspects of piano technique and offer powerful tools that make it possible to diagnose and solve previously unsolvable problems.
Wow. So thanks for listening to today's episode, which is part 1 of a 2-part interview. We will see you next week for part 2. Thanks for listening. Now, go get that book.